And now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please join me again in welcoming to the podium the President, CEO, and Deputy Chair of ATCO and Canadian Utilities, Nancy Southern.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Jane and Dawn. Okay, thanks, Ruth. Lieutenant Governor of the Province of Alberta, in your honor, Linda, thank you. Ministers and members of the Government of Canada and the Province of Alberta, Your Worship, Mayor Nenshi, Chief Weaselhead, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very, very much. Thank you again, Jane and Dawn. And I'd also like to thank Brinkhouse Jewelries, my good friends Kim and Norbert Brinkhouse, as well as all of the sponsors that have made this luncheon so very, very special for me. And thank you to each and every one of you for coming out today. I'm so appreciative, thank you. I want to especially thank Ruth Kelly and your first rank team at Alberta Venture. Your industry is undergoing significant change, and I have the deepest respect for your innovation and perseverance. Alberta Venture is the source of objective journalism for Albertans and Western Canadians by Albertans. And my heartfelt congratulations to you on your 15 years of wonderful success, Ruth. It's terrific. It is such a great honor for me to receive Alberta Venture's Business Person of the Year, but most importantly, this award recognizes the heroic efforts of the women and men that make up ATCO Group and what it is today. It's through their dedication, their integrity, their innovation and spirit of enterprise that we have achieved any success attributed to us. More than 8,000 strong, it is our people that are the heart and mind of ATCO Group, and with deep appreciation to them, I accept this award on their behalf. Thank you. Many of the members of my team are here today. Thank you to each and every one of you. I also would like to take a moment to thank our board of directors for ATCO and Canadian Utilities. Their wise counsel and principled deliberations have steered our companies through the decades. Thank you for your guidance and the unheralded care and attention you give to our corporation. Finally, and most importantly, I want to thank my family. They make me emotional. My mother and father are my greatest mentors. They, like my grandparents before them, have taught me that the world is full of possibilities and opportunities, to never give up and always be true to yourself. Thank you. And my sister, my closest confidant, who always brings great clarity to complex situations and difficult decisions. My cousin Donna, for her sense of family and understanding. My children, my beautiful children, Kelly, Kyle, and Ben. Oh, you are the joy of my life. You are my inspiration. You are the very best part of each and every day of my life. And my husband, Jonathan, my true love and soulmate, your strength and kindness and your unwavering support have allowed me to follow my dreams. Thank you so much. And I love you all very much. In my role as Chief Executive at ATCO Group, I do have the opportunity to travel a great deal. We have operations across the Arctic in Mexico, United States, Chile, Brazil, Peru, Australia, the Middle East, and Great Britain. We have products in over 100 countries around the world, touching most points on the globe. Many people today, however, especially analysts in Canada, think of ATCO as a utility company, just here in Alberta, forgetting the tremendous international footprint and experience that we have and that makes ATCO so unique. ATCO Structures and Logistics, our founding enterprise, started by my father and grandfather, provides workforce housing and logistical support in all corners of the world. You might be surprised to know that for the last 5 years, we have had 400 to 600 people working inside the fence at Kandahar Air Force Base, doing that work on behalf of the NATO troops, providing waste management, hazardous materials control, water treatment, and fire suppression. We completed the largest workforce housing project, we believe, in the world, in the desert of Abu Dhabi, with 20,000 beds and all the accompanying units for kitchens, diners, recreation, and washroom facilities to accommodate the 20,000 workforce. That camp is to house the construction crew for the Saadiyat Island project in Abu Dhabi. And we're just completing a 3,600 person camp at the top of the Andes, straddling the border of Chile and Argentina for a new nickel mine. At the same time, our factories in Australia are building 6,000 beds for 3 LNG projects on Curtis Island on the east coast of Australia. Now, I mention this work only to illustrate that in spite of the devastating financial situation Europe finds itself in and the fiscal issues of the United States, the world is still conducting business to meet the demand created by China, India, and emerging nations in the Pacific Rim and Africa. I believe we are at the threshold in Canada today, and it is vital that we decide and then commit to the role our country should play in this new world order. We have done an outstanding job in maintaining a relatively sound balance sheet, and Prime Minister Harper's government is determined to balance our annual budget in fiscal 2014-15. I believe we can and we will achieve this. I believe a balanced budget is imperative to our country's future prosperity, and I believe we have the finest federal leadership Canada has had in decades. But our work is just beginning as a leader among nations. If we want the Canada I believe we all dream of, one that offers sustainable prosperity through the decades and centuries for generations to come, we must begin to set the course today. In Shakespeare's words, you are rapidly becoming what you are going to be. To achieve the Canada we all desire her to be, we must address the way forward on 3 important issues: healthcare, First Nations, trade and transport. I realize there are many complexities to each of these topics, and not the least of which is jurisdiction. But allow me to touch on them from a macro perspective. First of all, trade. If we survey the world, where do we see our future opportunities? And how can we fulfill our desires to provide for our children's future prosperity and all that that entails? Countries are not so different from companies when it comes to trade. If your best customer has less demand for your goods or decides to produce your product and in a sense become your competitor, as a company, just as in a country, we must seek out new customers quickly. The consequence of not doing so will, in a company, cause its demise. In a country, it will reduce GDP and increase unemployment. Canada is extraordinarily blessed, as all of you know, with natural resources, fertile land, and innovative people. In my dream for Canada, it is Canadians that develop our resources, and we must do so under the same tone of prudent regulation that has allowed our banks to be global and profitable, but not take on risks that could undermine our country. We can and are developing our resources under prudent regulation. Granted, regulations should always be worked on for improvements, but it is possible to continue to develop while still preserving our country's unparalleled beauty. The reality is the greatest demand for our resources comes from other countries now, not just the United States. And we should be expanding our customer base, accessing international markets. And we should do this for a whole host of reasons, east-west and north-south. Companies, like countries, must also adapt to shifts in the nature of the products we produce and sell. If our manufactured goods are no longer competitive or in demand, countries and companies must then innovate, improve on our products so that they meet the demand of our customers and/or reduce our costs. But sometimes, no matter how hard one tries, the customer outgrows the product or the product becomes obsolete. Canada's largest economic driver today is the growing demand for our resources. That includes water, agriculture, minerals, and hydrocarbons. And many of our traditionally manufactured goods are uncompetitive. Unfortunately, Canada's focus on the subsidized protection of products that are no longer competitive not only prolongs and impairs our ability to achieve a balanced budget, but it also impedes the progress of developing new products that are in real demand. As harsh as I know this sounds, and I know that Minister Kenney has heard me say this before, unemployment insurance and the propping up of uncompetitive manufacturing in the heavily populated regions of Canada is harming, not helping us achieve the Canada we all want. There are wonderful opportunities for individuals and families where jobs are being created, right here in our city. But throughout Canada, I'm not talking just about Alberta. Our Canadian Shield, Northern Ontario, the Timmins area, are rich with resources. Maybe there aren't as many trees or warm lakes. Maybe it's a bit colder. But did our forefathers, the people who came to this great country, come because they were promised a government that would pay for them to live without working? No. And I'm not talking about our social responsibility to look after those who really can't work. It is uneconomic and unproductive to bring people from outside of Canada for limited amounts of time to build and operate our resource projects, infrastructure, and service industries at the same time as we are paying people unemployment insurance that allows them to stay where they are and take from tax-paying workers when work is readily available in other parts of the country. To be clear, this is not just a federal government issue. It is incumbent upon businesses, cities, and provinces. We must all work together to be part of the solution that allows and encourages unemployed Canadians to relocate where the jobs are. Our current unemployment insurance must be reformed, and barriers such as housing, transportation, and general accessibility for people moving must be improved. We need to do that. We must do everything we can to get this right. But even when we do, the demographic reality for Canada is that we still require immigration to meet our current and future labor needs. Today, many companies are bringing in immigrant workers, but they are only allowed in for a relatively short period of time, which results in reduced productivity because of the cycle of retraining new workers when they come in. Furthermore, these people, who are for the most part, very ambitious and hardworking, have no vested interest in making our communities their home or contributing to making our communities better. They send their hard-earned money back to their countries of origin, and Canada doesn't end up cultivating new entrepreneurs who, like our forefathers, believe Canada is the one place in the world where they can make a better life for themselves and their families. On the issue of transportation, we must find a way to change our reactive approach. It is so vitally important to our country that we bring a proactive strategic plan to transportation corridors for people, goods, and energy. In my mind, this is the domain and responsibility of our provincial and federal policymakers. Our elected governments have the authority to designate corridors, east-west and north-south. This highly polarizing issue will only become more and more acrimonious as more and more individual projects are proposed wherever the proponents believe a routing or right-of-way should go. This is not an easy task, but neither will it ever get any easier. Building a railroad across a vast, unpopulated country required bold courage and the conviction of a few that it would become the most significant nation builder in our history. Today, we have two east-west transnational rail lines, an east-west Trans-Canada gas pipeline, the east-west Trans-Canada highway, each single-purpose corridors. Utility and transportation corridors should be designated by our policymakers, and we should do so now, east to west and north to south. And these corridors should be large enough in scope and size to accommodate unidentified future growth so that disruptions are minimal and designated corridors are optimized. It will be hard. It will be very hard to do. Government and their agencies must base corridors on sound evidence. They must analyze that evidence carefully and be willing to change if the evidence suggests changing. And then policy must be drafted into well thought out laws and regulations based on principles that ensure the intended spirit of the policy to encompass future growth. I'm neither a proponent nor do I have a vested interest in any given pipeline. But I am a strong proponent of proactive strategy and sound government policy that enables, rather than constrains, the future of Canadians and our enterprise. On the subject of First Nations, I am so proud of ATCO and the relationships we have developed with our First Nations partners. It is important, and I want to note, my use of the word partner. The Oxford English Dictionary defines partner as a person who possesses something jointly with another or others, a person who takes part with another or others in doing something, a person who is associated with another or others in carrying on a business with shared risks and profits. Our partners are truly partners. We take the time to get to know and understand each other. We learn to trust each other. We respect each other. And we each commit to bringing value as best we can to our partnerships. Sometimes we don't agree. And at those times, we expect each other to negotiate in good faith and to explore workable alternatives towards equal and mutual benefits. ATCO Group's partnerships extend across Canada and involve a wide array of businesses and projects, from operating and maintaining the North Warning System, the radar system, in the Arctic, delivering fuel in Iqaluit, hydropower generation on the Old Man River, to lodging facilities and catering in the oil sands and potash mines, to name just a few. ATCO Group's First Nation partnerships generate approximately $100 million in revenue annually to our partners. Our partners, just like ourselves, want their children to be happy and to have the opportunity of a better life, no different than anyone else in this room. That is the very essence of life. It is human nature. and it is the reason that mankind progresses. But quite frankly, it is often forgotten by corporates and governments. I am proud of what our partners and ATCO have created. Our dream of what Canada can be must possess an inclusive solution to preserve traditions and our proud heritage, while offering the first people of this land the ability to provide a nurturing environment for their communities that creates real value, real enterprise, followed by pride and hope. What ATCO has created is very difficult to describe in words. Our partnerships. Too often used and sometimes a meaningless term is capacity building. We are partners. With all the warts and imperfections each of us brings to the table, but we have found a way to get beyond first appearances. We know each other's children's names, their ages, and what their interests are. We do things together because we enjoy each other, and we are genuinely interested in each other. On healthcare, I do not pretend to know the healthcare industry and all of its intricacies, but I do know that for the healthy Canada of our dreams, we must accept the reality that we cannot afford everything everywhere we want it. We must, on all fronts, live within our means, and I am so impressed that Minister Flaherty took the first step in grabbing the bull by the horns by outlining a ceiling for health care financing in the future. According to Dr. David Dodge in his acceptance speech for the Vanier Medal, bold action is required to bring about structural change in health care. This will be very difficult, and so the process must be evolutionary. Our finance minister has initiated the discussion and posed the financial limitations. Now it is up to us to engage ourselves in understanding the reality of what is and what is not possible for our healthcare system, and to actively engage in that discussion. My father says, a dream is never just a dream. It is the collective effort of many constituencies that makes a dream come true. Each of us, collectively and individually, are part of the dream for our Canada. We have made her the proud nation she is today, and we are responsible for making our dreams the reality of what we want Canada to be in the future. As I take stock of the world around us, I am convinced that our country has an unparalleled opportunity, perhaps a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, to secure sustainable prosperity for our children and theirs in the decades and centuries to come. But the work that lies ahead of us will require great courage, determination, and perseverance. I believe we have the desire, we have great leaders, and we must all work together to achieve the Canada we dream of, a leader among nations. Thank you.